Millionaire hires Maid woman to be his wife. For 15, day 20 minutes discovers, shocks him. In this captivating video, we delve into an intriguing and unconventional story that is sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. A millionaire, living a life of luxury and extravagance, makes an unexpected decision that changes his life forever. Despite having everything he could possibly want, he feels an emptiness within him that his wealth cannot fill. We'd love to hear if you're excited about this story. If you had a good time watching the video, go ahead and press 1. If that's not the case, just press 0. Your feedback truly motivates me to collect more heartwarming and significant stories. At the heart of a grand, silent mansion lived a man who seemed to have it all: wealth, success, and power. Yet behind the ornate doors and towering walls, Ethan Carrington was a prisoner of his own grief, trapped in the shadows of a love lost too soon. But when a bold suggestion from his loyal assistant leads him to a chance encounter with an extraordinary woman, his life takes a turn he never expected. What unfolds is a journey of healing, hope, and a love so profound it defies the weight of the past. Curious? Let me tell you the story of how Ethan found the light again in the most unlikely of ways. The sprawling estate of Greenhaven Manor loomed like a sentinel against the twilight sky. Its towering facade, once a beacon of life and laughter, now stood cloaked in silence, each shadow it cast mirroring the emptiness within. Inside, Ethan Carrington moved through the mansion like a ghost, his presence a faint echo of the man he used to be. The halls were adorned with memories frozen in time, framed photographs of him and Olivia, his late wife, smiling in sunlit gardens or locked in laughter during lavish dinners. The scent of her favorite perfume still lingered faintly in their bedroom, a cruel reminder of her absence. Every corner of the house seemed to whisper her name, pulling Ethan deeper into a well of grief he could not escape. It had been 2 years since Olivia had passed, her battle with illness cutting her life tragically short. For Ethan, time had done little to heal the wound. Instead, it had turned his grief into a heavy shroud, suffocating any spark of joy that dared to flicker. His once vibrant eyes were now dull and bloodshot. His tailored suits hung loosely on a frame, diminished by sleepless nights and skipped meals. To the world, Ethan was still a powerful billionaire, his name synonymous with success and innovation. But behind the iron gates of Greenhaven, he was a man undone, drowning in a sea of what-ifs and if-onlys. The empire he had built felt meaningless without Olivia by his side to share in its triumphs. Lauren Brooks had worked for Ethan for nearly a decade, and in that time, she had come to see him as more than just a boss. She respected his sharp mind and admired his generosity, but it was his devotion to Olivia that had truly earned her loyalty. Watching him now, consumed by sorrow, was unbearable. Lauren had tried everything to lift his spirits: gentle encouragements, suggesting vacations, even inviting close friends to visit. But nothing worked. Ethan would nod politely, thank her for her concern, and retreat back into his isolation. It was during a quiet afternoon in her office that an idea struck her. She had been reviewing Ethan's calendar and noticed an invitation to the upcoming charity gala at the Silver Parlor Hotel. For years, Ethan and Olivia had been fixtures at such events, their charisma and elegance turning heads wherever they went. Lauren doubted Ethan would even consider attending, but the event presented an opportunity, a chance to force him out of his solitude, even if only for one evening. But how could she convince him to go? And more importantly, how could she ensure he wouldn't endure the event as a pitying spectacle? That's when the idea of a rental wife occurred to her. She had read about agencies offering discreet companionship services for high-profile clients. It was unconventional, but Lauren had seen the depths of Ethan's loneliness. Perhaps this was exactly what he needed: a push, a companion to help him rejoin the world. The thought made her hesitate. Would he see it as an insult to Olivia's memory? Would he fire her on the spot for even suggesting it? But as Lauren watched Ethan shuffle through Greenhaven's halls like a man without a soul, she knew she had to try. Later that evening, Lauren found Ethan in his study. He was sitting at Olivia's old writing desk, a tumbler of whiskey in hand, staring blankly at an open book. The room was dimly lit, the shadows playing tricks on his gaunt features. For a moment, Lauren almost turned back, unsure if she had the courage to go through with her plan. But the image of Ethan like this, alone, broken, steeled her resolve. "Ethan," she began softly, stepping into the room. He looked up, his gaze weary but curious. "Can we talk?" "If this is about rescheduling the board meeting, I've already approved it," he said, his voice low and tired. "It's not about work," Lauren said, moving closer. "It's about you." Ethan sighed, rubbing a hand across his face. "Lauren, if this is another pep talk—" "It's not," she interrupted, surprising even herself with her firmness. "I know how hard things have been, and I know nothing can bring Olivia back. But Ethan, you're fading away. She wouldn't want this for you." He flinched at the mention of Olivia's name, but said nothing, his silence an invitation for Lauren to continue. "There's an event coming up," she said cautiously. "The charity gala at the Silver Parlor. You and Olivia used to love those evenings." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I'm not going." "That's what I thought you'd say," Lauren replied, her tone steady. "Which is why I have an idea. Hear me out before you say no." Ethan arched an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. Lauren took a deep breath and explained her idea. Hiring someone to accompany him to the gala. A professional companion, someone discreet and elegant, who could help him navigate the evening without the pitying stares and awkward conversations. As she spoke, Ethan's expression shifted from disbelief to mild amusement, and finally to curiosity. When she finished, there was a long silence. Lauren braced herself for his rejection. "Let me get this straight," Ethan said, setting his glass down. "You want me to hire a fake wife?" "Not a wife," Lauren corrected quickly. "A companion. Someone to help you ease back into social life. It's not about replacing Olivia. It's about having someone by your side, even if just for one night." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his gaze distant. The idea was absurd, almost insulting. But as he thought about the gala, about the prying eyes, the whispers, the loneliness that awaited him afterward, he couldn't dismiss it entirely. The silence of Greenhaven had become unbearable. Maybe this was a way to fill it, even temporarily. "And you think this will help?" he asked finally, his voice tinged with skepticism. "I don't know," Lauren admitted, "but I think it's worth a try. You deserve to live again, Ethan. Olivia would want that." The mention of Olivia again sent a pang through his chest, but this time it was different. Instead of guilt, he felt a faint stir of hope, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, he could honor her memory by finding a way to move forward. "All right," Ethan said at last, surprising both himself and Lauren. "Let's give it a shot." Lauren wasted no time. She contacted an agency with a reputation for professionalism and discretion, reviewing profiles with Ethan the next morning. As the profiles spread across the table, Ethan felt out of place, as though he were browsing for a product instead of a person. None of the women stood out to him until he saw her. Her name was Emilia Hart. Her photograph wasn't the most glamorous, but there was something in her eyes, a quiet strength, a spark of joy, that captivated him. Her profile was modest, a housekeeper working part-time as a caregiver, taking on extra work to support her mother. Unlike the polished resumes of the other candidates, Amelia's simplicity intrigued him. "She has a lovely smile," Lauren observed, noticing his lingering gaze on Amelia's photo. "She does," Ethan agreed quietly. For the first time in years, he felt a faint smile tug at his lips. "Let's meet her." The cafe chosen for their meeting was tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, a place where Ethan's name and face wouldn't draw unwanted attention. He arrived first, uncharacteristically early, and sat at a corner table, his nerves betraying him. It had been years since he'd felt this kind of unease, the anticipation of meeting someone new, someone who might see through the polished veneer he usually maintained. When the door opened, Ethan's gaze shifted automatically. Emilia walked in, her presence understated yet magnetic. She wasn't dressed extravagantly, just a simple blue dress that complemented her auburn hair, tied back neatly. What struck Ethan most, though, was her posture. Confident but not arrogant, grounded yet graceful. As their eyes met, Amelia offered a polite smile and approached the table. "Mr. Carrington?" "Ethan," he corrected, standing to greet her. "Please have a seat." Her handshake was firm, her hands calloused, a subtle but telling sign of someone accustomed to hard work. As they settled into their chairs, Ethan found himself searching her expression, trying to gauge what she thought of him. Was she nervous? Judging him? But Amelia's demeanor remained calm, her gaze steady. The server brought menus, but Ethan barely glanced at his. He wasn't hungry. His focus was on her. "So," Amelia began, breaking the silence, "Lauren told me a bit about why we're meeting, but I'd like to hear it from you. What exactly are you looking for?" The directness of her question caught Ethan off guard, but he appreciated it. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I, I've been stuck in a rut, and Lauren seems to think that having someone to accompany me to certain events might help." Emilia nodded, her expression neutral. "And you think that someone should be me?" "I think," Ethan replied, meeting her gaze, "that I'm trusting Lauren's judgment. She seems to think you'd be a good fit." Emilia leaned back slightly, studying him. There was no arrogance in her evaluation, just quiet curiosity. "Well, I'm not a socialite, if that's what you're expecting. I can carry a conversation and handle myself in a crowd, but I'm not here to play a part. If this arrangement is going to work, I need to be myself." Her words struck a chord. Ethan hadn't realized how much he needed someone genuine, someone who wasn't trying to impress or manipulate him. "That's exactly what I'm looking for," he said, surprising even himself. Their conversation unfolded naturally after that. Emilia spoke about her life, her mother's illness, and her work as a caregiver and housekeeper. Ethan found himself captivated by her honesty and resilience. Unlike the polished personas he often encountered, Amelia was refreshingly real. By the time their meeting ended, Ethan felt lighter. For the first time in years, he wasn't weighed down by the past or consumed by guilt. As they shook hands to part ways, he realized something else. He was looking forward to seeing her again. The following morning, Emilia arrived at Greenhaven Manor, carrying a modest suitcase. The grandeur of the estate momentarily took her breath away, but she didn't let it show. The towering columns, expansive gardens, and ornate facade were a stark contrast to her humble upbringing. Yet she walked up the stone steps with steady confidence. Ethan met her at the door, dressed casually in a gray sweater and slacks. He seemed different from the man she'd met at the cafe, less guarded, though still reserved. "Welcome," he said, gesturing for her to step inside. "I hope the drive wasn't too long." "It was fine, thank you," Amelia replied, taking in the interior. The mansion was as beautiful inside as it was outside, but it felt cold, almost lifeless. The marble floors gleamed and the chandeliers sparkled. Yet there was an emptiness that couldn't be ignored. "I'll show you around," Ethan offered, leading her through the sprawling halls. As he explained the history of the estate, Emilia noticed how his tone shifted when he mentioned Olivia. There was a tenderness in his voice, tinged with sadness, that made Emilia ache for him. When they reached the guest suite prepared for her, Emilia placed her suitcase by the bed and turned to Ethan. "Thank you for trusting me with this. I know it's not easy." Ethan hesitated, then gave a small nod. "No, it's not, but I think you're the right person for this." It didn't take long for Emilia to make her presence felt in the mansion. Where others might have been intimidated by its size or the weight of its history, Emilia approached it with warmth and practicality. The staff, who had grown accustomed to Ethan's somber mood, were immediately charmed by Emilia. She greeted each of them by name, asked about their lives, and even joined them in the kitchen on her first evening to help prepare dinner. The housekeeper, Margaret, was particularly taken by her, saying later to Ethan, "She's a breath of fresh air, sir. Just what this place needs." Ethan observed all of this from a distance at first, unsure how to navigate the changes Emilia was bringing. He watched her laugh with the gardeners, arrange fresh flowers in the parlor, and hum softly to herself as she moved through the halls. It was as though Greenhaven itself was waking up, responding to her energy. One afternoon, Emilia invited Ethan to join her for tea in the garden. She had set up a small table near the fountain, complete with a vase of freshly cut flowers. "This was Olivia's favorite spot," Ethan said as he sat down, his voice heavy with nostalgia. Emilia nodded. "It's beautiful. I can see why she loved it." For a while they sipped their tea in silence, the sound of birdsong filling the air. Then Emilia spoke. Ethan, I don't mean to pry, but do you think Olivia would want you to keep living like this? The question was gentle but pointed. Ethan looked at her, his expression conflicted. No, he admitted after a long pause. She wouldn't. Then maybe, Amelia said softly, this is your chance to honor her memory by living the way she'd want you to. Ethan didn't respond immediately, but her words stayed with him long after they left the garden. The first true test of their arrangement came a week later, at the charity gala. The Silver Parlor Hotel was dazzling as always, its ballroom aglow with golden lights and the chatter of the city's elite. Ethan hadn't attended such an event since Olivia's passing, and the weight of returning felt immense. Amelia was ready when he came to escort her. She wore an elegant emerald dress that highlighted her natural beauty, her auburn hair swept into a loose bun. When Ethan saw her, he froze for a moment, struck by how radiant she looked. "You clean up well," he said, managing a faint smile. "You don't look too bad yourself," Amelia teased, easing the tension. As they entered the ballroom, all eyes turned to them. Ethan felt the familiar prickle of attention, but Amelia's steady presence grounded him. She introduced herself to guests with ease, navigating conversations with a natural charm that left even Ethan's most difficult business associates impressed. At one point, the orchestra began to play a waltz. Ethan hesitated, then extended his hand. "Would you like to dance?" Amelia smiled. "I'd love to." As they moved across the dance floor, the world around them seemed to fade. For the first time in years, Ethan felt alive. The weight of his grief momentarily lifted. And as he looked into Amelia's eyes, he couldn't help but wonder if she was the key to finding his way back to life. The drive back to Greenhaven Manor was quiet. The soft hum of the car's engine filled the space between Ethan and Amelia. But it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. Instead, it felt reflective, as though the evening had left them both grappling with unspoken thoughts. As they approached the gates of the estate, Ethan glanced at Amelia. She was staring out of the window, her expression thoughtful but serene. The image of her on the dance floor lingered in his mind, her laughter, her grace, the way she had made the world seem less daunting. He hadn't felt this light in years, and it both terrified and exhilarated him. "Thank you," Ethan said suddenly, breaking the silence. Amelia turned to him, her eyes curious. "For what?" "For tonight," he replied. "For helping me face something I've been avoiding for a long time." She smiled gently. "You faced it, Ethan. I just happened to be there." The days following the gala saw an unspoken shift between Ethan and Amelia. Their interactions, once tinged with formality, grew warmer, more personal. They began sharing meals together, something Ethan hadn't done with anyone since Olivia's passing. At first, their conversations were guarded, focused on mundane topics like work or the weather. But gradually, they ventured into deeper territory. One evening, as they sat in the library by a crackling fire, Amelia asked a question that had been on her mind since the day they met. "What was Olivia like?" Ethan hesitated, staring into the flames. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost reverent. "She was extraordinary, intelligent, kind, fiercely independent. She had this way of making everyone around her feel seen, valued." Amelia listened intently, noting the fondness in his tone. But beneath the admiration, she sensed something else. Guilt. "And you miss her," Amelia said gently, more a statement than a question. "Every day," Ethan admitted. "But it's more than that. I feel like moving forward would mean betraying her memory. How can I love someone else when she gave me so much?" Amelia didn't respond immediately. Instead, she leaned forward, her voice steady but empathetic. "Ethan, loving someone new doesn't mean forgetting her. It doesn't mean her place in your heart gets any smaller. It just means your heart grows to make room for someone else." Her words lingered in the air, settling into the spaces Ethan had long left empty. While Ethan found himself opening up to Amelia, she was grappling with her own fears. Every evening after her duties at Greenhaven, she visited her mother Lillian at St. Helena Medical Center. Lillian was her anchor, her compass, and the reason Amelia had agreed to the unusual arrangement with Ethan. On one particularly difficult evening, Lillian noticed Amelia's distraction. "You're thinking about him, aren't you?" she asked, her voice weak but knowing. Amelia sighed, sitting beside her mother's bed. I don't know what I'm doing, Mom. He's complicated, wounded, and I don't know if I'm helping him or just making things harder. Lillian reached for Amelia's hand, her frail fingers surprisingly strong. Sometimes the people who seem the hardest to help are the ones who need it most. Trust your heart, Amelia. It's never led you wrong before. One crisp autumn afternoon, Amelia suggested something unexpected. Let's cook dinner together, she said, catching Ethan off guard. He raised an eyebrow. Cook? Yes, cook, she said with a teasing smile. Not everything has to come from a five-star chef. Trust me, it'll be fun. Reluctantly, Ethan agreed. As they stood in the kitchen chopping vegetables and debating over seasoning, something shifted. They laughed over his clumsy attempts to dice onions, and when a sauce accidentally boiled over, they scrambled together to clean up the mess. The kitchen, usually a sterile and quiet space, was alive with warmth and laughter. As they sat down to the meal they had prepared, Ethan looked across the table at Amelia. Her cheeks were flushed from the heat of the stove, her smile radiant. For the first time in years, he felt truly present, unburdened by the ghosts of his past. That night, however, the weight of guilt returned with a vengeance. Alone in his room, Ethan found himself surrounded by memories of Olivia, the scent of her perfume still faintly lingering on her vanity, the photograph of their wedding day on his bedside table. He picked up the photo, his fingers trembling. I'm sorry, he whispered. I don't know how to do this without feeling like I'm letting you down. The next morning, Ethan was distant. He avoided Amelia's gaze at breakfast, retreating to his study under the pretense of work. But Amelia wasn't one to be easily deterred. She found him there later, staring blankly at his desk. Ethan, she said softly, stepping into the room. Talk to me. He looked up, his eyes heavy with emotion. I can't do this, Amelia. Every time I start to feel something good, I remember her, and it feels like I'm betraying her. Amelia sat across from him, her expression unwavering. What do you think she would say if she were here right now? Ethan's voice cracked. She'd tell me to move on. She said as much before she left. But knowing it and doing it are two very different things. Amelia reached for his hand, her touch grounding him. Ethan, you're not betraying her. You're honoring her by living the way she wanted you to, by allowing yourself to find happiness again. That evening, Amelia made a decision. She packed her bags, leaving a note on Ethan's desk. You need to face this, Ethan. Not for me, but for yourself. When you're ready, truly ready, I'll be here. When Ethan found the note the next morning, his heart sank. The house, which had begun to feel alive again, seemed emptier than ever. He knew she was right. He needed to confront his past, to say goodbye to Olivia in a way he hadn't before. Driven by a sense of urgency, Ethan visited Olivia's grave for the first time in months. Standing before the headstone, he felt a surge of emotion, grief, guilt, and something else he couldn't quite name. I'll always love you, he said aloud, his voice trembling, but I need to live again. And I think I've found someone who can help me do that. For the first time, the weight lifted. As he left the cemetery, a new resolve took hold. He knew what he needed to do. Ethan's heart raced as he stepped into St. Helena Medical Center. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, but it did nothing to calm his nerves. Amelia had left Greenhaven Manor days ago, and the void she left behind had been unbearable. He had visited Olivia's grave, confronted the guilt that had chained him to the past, and now he was ready. Ready to tell Amelia everything. When he reached Lillian's room, he paused in the doorway. Amelia was sitting by her mother's bedside, her soft voice reading aloud from a worn book. The sunlight streaming through the window framed her like a painting, her auburn hair glowing in the gentle light. For a moment, Ethan simply watched, his heart swelling with a mix of admiration and longing. Ethan? Amelia's voice broke through his thoughts. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face. What are you doing here? I needed to see you, he said, stepping into the room. His gaze shifted to Lillian, who was watching him with a curious expression. I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all, Lillian said, her voice warm despite its frailty. You must be Ethan. Amelia's told me about you. Ethan glanced at Amelia, who looked slightly flustered, then back at Lillian. I hope only the good things, Lillian smiled. Mostly. Amelia stood, motioning for Ethan to follow her into the hallway. Once they were alone, she crossed her arms, her expression guarded. Why are you here, Ethan? Because I need you to know something, he began, his voice earnest. I've spent the last few days thinking about everything. About Olivia, about us, and I realized something important. Amelia's brow furrowed, but she remained silent, waiting. I'll always love Olivia, he said. She was a part of my life that I'll never forget. But that doesn't mean I can't make room for someone else. For you. You've brought light back into my world, Amelia. You've made me feel alive again, and I don't want to lose that. Her arms fell to her sides, her expression softening. Ethan, I'm not perfect, he continued, his voice breaking slightly. I'm still learning how to move forward, but I know I want to do it with you, if you'll have me. For a moment, Amelia said nothing, her emotions warring within her. Then, with tears glistening in her eyes, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. I've been waiting for you to say that. Ethan held her tightly, relief and joy washing over him. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. As they returned to Lillian's room, the older woman greeted them with a knowing smile. Looks like you two worked things out. Amelia blushed but nodded. Something like that. Lillian's gaze shifted to Ethan. There's something I should tell you, she said, her tone serious. I knew your wife. Ethan froze, his mind racing. You knew Olivia? Lillian nodded. Years ago, we worked together in a small fabric shop. She was one of the kindest people I ever met. When she talked about you, her eyes would light up. She adored you. Ethan's throat tightened as memories of Olivia flooded back. She never mentioned you. She wouldn't have, Lillian said with a small smile. She was private about her past. But I want you to know this. Olivia loved you deeply, and she would want you to be happy. I'm certain she'd give you her blessing. Her words hit Ethan like a wave, both comforting and bittersweet. Thank you, he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. That means more than you know. Lillian reached out, taking his hand. Take care of my daughter, Ethan. She's special, and she deserves someone who sees that. I will, Ethan promised, glancing at Amelia. I will. The days following their reunion were a whirlwind of change. Amelia officially moved back to Greenhaven Manor, though this time it felt different. She wasn't just a companion hired to fulfill a contract. She was a partner, someone Ethan leaned on and trusted in ways he hadn't thought possible. Together, they began transforming the mansion into a home. Amelia introduced small but meaningful touches. A vegetable garden in the backyard, cozy reading nooks filled with soft blankets, and cheerful flowers in every room. The staff adored her, and even Ethan's most reclusive colleagues found themselves drawn to her warmth and charm. One evening, as they sat on the back patio watching the sunset, Ethan reached for Amelia's hand. You've changed everything, he said quietly. This house, my life, me. Amelia smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. You changed yourself, Ethan. I just helped you see what was already there. They sat in comfortable silence, the golden light of the setting sun wrapping around them like a promise of brighter days ahead. It was a crisp winter evening when Ethan made his decision. Snow blanketed the grounds of Greenhaven, the garden transformed into a sparkling wonderland. Amelia had spent the day decorating the house for the holidays, her laughter echoing through the halls as she enlisted the staff to help. That night, Ethan led her to the garden. Bundled in coats and scarves, they walked through the snow-covered paths until they reached the gazebo, now adorned with twinkling fairy lights. Amelia gasped, her breath visible in the cold air. Ethan, it's beautiful. It's nothing compared to you, he said, his voice steady despite the nerves coursing through him. Taking a deep breath, he knelt in the snow and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Amelia Hart, he began, his gaze locked on hers. You came into my life when I was lost, and you showed me how to find my way back. You've made me laugh, you've made me dream, and most importantly, you've made me believe in love again. Will you marry me? Tears filled Amelia's eyes as she knelt in front of him, taking his hands in hers. Yes, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. 1,000 times, yes. Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, the snow falling softly around them. In that moment, the world felt perfect, as though every struggle and heartbreak had led them to this. Months later, Greenhaven Manor was transformed once again, this time for their wedding. Friends, family, and staff gathered to celebrate Ethan and Amelia's union, their joy filling every corner of the estate. As they exchanged vows under the same gazebo where Ethan had proposed, the future stretched before them, bright and full of promise. Together they had overcome grief, fear, and doubt. Together they had found love, not as a replacement for the past, but as a testament to the resilience of the heart. And together they began a new chapter, one built on trust, hope, and an unwavering belief in the power of second chances. The days following Ethan and Amelia's wedding were nothing short of blissful. Greenhaven Manor, once a symbol of loneliness, now brimmed with laughter and love. The staff found themselves infected by the couple's joy, and even the coldest winter mornings felt warmer within the estate's walls. Ethan and Amelia decided to forgo an extravagant honeymoon for something simpler. A week at a secluded cabin in the mountains. Surrounded by nature, the couple spent their days hiking through snowy trails and their evenings curled up by a crackling fire, sharing stories and dreams for the future. One night, as the firelight danced across their faces, Amelia rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked, her voice soft. "All the time," Ethan replied, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness again, and it's all because of you." Amelia smiled, but there was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. "It's because of us, Ethan. We've both fought hard to get here." Her words stayed with him long after they fell asleep, reminding him that their journey was one of shared resilience and love. Returning to Greenhaven felt like stepping into a new chapter. Amelia threw herself into making the manor feel even more like home, while Ethan began to rediscover his passion for life and work. The once cold halls of the mansion were transformed with Amelia's touch. Vibrant paintings adorned the walls. Fresh flowers filled the air with their sweet aroma, and the kitchen became the heart of the home, alive with laughter and the clatter of pots and pans. But life was not without its challenges. As much as Ethan had moved forward, there were still moments when the past whispered to him. One afternoon, while clearing out an old storage room, Ethan stumbled upon a box of Olivia's belongings. He sat on the floor, rifling through the contents. A scarf that still carried her scent. A handwritten note she'd left for him on a particularly tough day. When Amelia found him there, tears brimming in his eyes, she didn't say a word. Instead, she knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around him in silent support. "She'll always be a part of you," Amelia said after a long silence. "And that's okay. Our love doesn't erase hers. It just adds to it." Ethan pulled her close, marveling at her wisdom and compassion. "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "I think we both got lucky," Amelia replied with a smile. Life at Greenhaven continued to evolve, and so did Ethan and Amelia's relationship. As the seasons changed, so did their priorities. They began hosting community events on the estate grounds, inviting families and children to enjoy the gardens and share in the joy that Greenhaven now represented. One spring evening, after a particularly successful fundraiser for the local hospital, Amelia pulled Ethan aside. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice tinged with nervous excitement. "What if we expanded our family?" Ethan's eyebrows rose. "Are you talking about kids?" Amelia nodded, a soft smile gracing her lips. "I've always dreamed of being a mother, and seeing how much you care for the people around you, I think you'd make an amazing father." For a moment, Ethan was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Then he smiled, pulling her into his arms. "I think that's the best idea I've heard all year." A year later, Greenhaven Manor welcomed its newest resident, a baby girl they named Olivia Grace, in honor of Ethan's late wife. Holding their daughter for the first time, Ethan was overwhelmed by a wave of emotions: love, gratitude, and the realization that life had a way of bringing unexpected blessings. As Olivia grew, the manor came alive with the sound of her laughter. Emily proved to be a natural mother, her patience and warmth creating a nurturing environment for their daughter. Ethan, too, embraced fatherhood with a passion he hadn't known he possessed, dedicating his mornings to reading storybooks and his evenings to teaching Olivia the names of the flowers in the garden. Their family continued to grow, with the arrival of a son, Henry, 2 years later. The once empty halls of Greenhaven were now filled with the pitter-patter of tiny feet and the joyful chaos of a growing family. As the years passed, Ethan and Amelia poured their hearts into building a legacy that extended beyond their family. They turned Greenhaven into a community hub, hosting educational programs, charity events, and even an annual winter festival. The estate became a symbol of hope and unity, a far cry from the lonely monument it had once been. Ethan also found new purpose in his business ventures, focusing on philanthropy and sustainable initiatives. With Amelia's support, he launched programs that provided resources for single parents, caregivers, and those struggling with grief. Causes close to both their hearts. Their children grew up in this environment of love and generosity, learning the values of kindness and compassion from their parents. Olivia and Henry often joined their parents in their charitable efforts, eager to carry on the legacy of Greenhaven. Decades later, Ethan and Amelia sat together in the garden, their hair streaked with silver, but their love as vibrant as ever. The once young couple who had met under unconventional circumstances had built a life they never could have imagined. "Do you remember the first time we danced?" Ethan asked, his voice laced with nostalgia. "How could I forget?" Amelia replied, her eyes sparkling. "You were so nervous, I thought you'd step on my toes." Ethan laughed, the sound warm and full. "And you were so graceful, I couldn't look away." They fell into a comfortable silence, watching as their grandchildren played in the garden. The laughter of the younger generation was a testament to the life they had built, a life filled with love, resilience, and the courage to move forward. As the sun set over Greenhaven, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Ethan took Amelia's hand. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything, for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Amelia squeezed his hand, her heart full. "And thank you for letting me in, for trusting me with your heart." In that moment, surrounded by the legacy of their love, Ethan and Amelia knew they had found something rare and beautiful, a bond that had not only survived the trials of life, but thrived because of them. As Greenhaven Manor evolved into a symbol of hope for the community, Ethan and Amelia faced new challenges. With their children grown and building their own lives, the couple shifted their focus to ensuring the estate and their philanthropic efforts would endure beyond their time. One evening, over a quiet dinner in the sunroom, Ethan brought up a topic that had been on his mind for weeks. "Amelia," he began, his tone thoughtful, "we've built something special here, but we need to start thinking about the future." Amelia set down her teacup, her gaze attentive. "You're talking about the foundation, aren't you?" He nodded. "Yes. I want to make sure Greenhaven remains a place of support and growth for this community. But more than that, I want to ensure our children understand the responsibility they'll inherit." Amelia smiled warmly. "Olivia and Henry have grown into remarkable people. They've watched us pour our hearts into this work. I think they'll be ready when the time comes." Still, Ethan couldn't shake his concern. "I just don't want them to feel burdened by it. This is their legacy too, but it should bring them joy, not pressure." Amelia reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "We'll guide them, Ethan, the same way we've guided each other, and we'll trust them to find their own way." The following weekend, Ethan and Amelia invited their children and their families back to Greenhaven for a gathering. Olivia, now a successful environmental scientist, arrived with her husband and young twins, while Henry, an aspiring author, brought his fiancée. After a lively meal filled with laughter and stories, Ethan gathered everyone in the library. "I wanted to talk to you all about something important," he began, glancing at Amelia, who gave him an encouraging nod. He spoke about the foundation, the work they had done, and the vision they had for Greenhaven's future. "Your mother and I have poured our souls into this place," he said, his voice steady but emotional. "But the time will come when it's your turn to lead. We don't want this to be a burden. We want it to be something you're proud of, something that reflects who you are." Olivia was the first to respond, her voice filled with conviction. "Dad, we've seen the difference this place has made. I've seen how it's brought people together, how it's changed lives. Of course, we'll carry it forward. Henry chimed in, his tone equally resolute. And you've shown us how to do it with love. We'll make sure Greenhaven stays true to its purpose. Their words brought a sense of relief to Ethan and Amelia, who exchanged a look of gratitude. Together, they spent the evening discussing plans for the future, weaving the next chapter of Greenhaven's story. As the years went on, life continued to present its trials. One winter, a severe storm damaged parts of the estate, threatening the very heart of their community programs. The gardens were flooded, several historic rooms sustained water damage, and the greenhouse Amelia had nurtured for years was destroyed. For the first time in decades, Ethan felt the weight of defeat creeping in. Maybe this is a sign, he said one evening, staring at the rain-soaked grounds. Maybe we've done all we can. Amelia, ever the optimist, refused to give in. It's not a sign, Ethan. It's a challenge, and we've never backed down from a challenge before. Together, they rallied the community, organizing fundraisers and gathering volunteers to help with the repairs. Their children returned to Greenhaven, bringing their own skills and ideas to the effort. Slowly but surely, the estate was restored, stronger and more vibrant than ever. Through the struggle, Ethan realized something profound. The heart of Greenhaven wasn't its buildings or grounds. It was the people who believed in its mission. On a warm summer evening, Ethan and Amelia sat together on the bench beneath the ancient oak tree in their garden. Their grandchildren played nearby, their laughter echoing through the estate. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Amelia asked, leaning her head against Ethan's shoulder. "Every day," Ethan replied, his voice filled with wonder. "Sometimes I can't believe it all started with a crazy idea Lauren had." Amelia chuckled. "And a widower who thought hiring a companion was the solution to his loneliness." Ethan smiled, his gaze soft. "It wasn't the solution. It was the beginning of something so much bigger." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting its final rays over Greenhaven, Ethan and Amelia sat in quiet contentment. Their journey had been one of love, loss, and resilience, but it had brought them to a place of profound peace. Surrounded by their family, their community, and the enduring legacy of their love, they knew they had created something truly timeless, a testament to the power of second chances.